Hey, thanks for checking out my new series, Luigi Mangione's Bookshelf. Now, really, this bookshelf that you're seeing in Kindle, which is my personal bookshelf, owned by one of the owners of the Devil's Advocates, is a whole bunch of other topics that are not related to Luigi Mangione. We are going to be focusing at the moment on this top book, An American Sickness. And the idea behind this series is that I wanted to start a book club of books that inform our discussions and help us have a better understanding of the topics at hand. At Devil's Advocates, we have been following the Luigi Mangione story and his alleged shooting of Brian Thompson, CEO of the UnitedHealthCare. In a recent documentary, it was alleged that Luigi Mangione suggested a couple of books and or movies because that he was not the best spokesman to explain what the problem is in America, but he did take action to address it. That's what the documentary from HBO or Investigation Discovery Channel basically reviewed recently. Of the books that Luigi Mangione mentioned that were of interest to us were a few. One, he mentioned Elizabeth Rosenthal, and this is the book that we're going to focus on here in this particular series, An American Sickness by Elizabeth Rosenthal. It points out the problems with the American healthcare system as she sees it and ways that Americans can combat it. If you're not in America, it probably is still very interesting to you because American healthcare systems may be coming your way. There's going to be a moving trend, I'm sure, of everyone trying to maximize profits over people's healthcare. And this is a growing problem in America. And it's one of the things that I've pointed out for those who are following the Luigi Mangione story is that we're missing the bigger picture. If Luigi Mangione did what he was accused of doing, and he wanted us to basically start a revolution in America to fight back against corporate greed and the healthcare system that's a problem, we are doing an injustice to Luigi Mangione, if you're a supporter of him, by making it about the man and how cute he is and all these things, and instead of focusing on the message, which is a broken healthcare system that has made somebody so irate that they will decide to take action because the rest of us are basically pacifists. Again, this is kind of a summary of the Investigation Discovery Channel special on Luigi, who is Luigi Mangione. And by the way, if you haven't seen that, I did several videos for YouTube, one of which was my first thoughts right after that documentary aired. I also did full analysis as well of 4 other documentaries on Luigi Mangione, one by the New York Post, one by ABC News, I believe, one by TMZ, and now this one as well. I feel like there's one I'm missing in there. But the point being is that all these specials keep coming out about Luigi Mangione and what he is or isn't and why he did the things that he did allegedly. But what we wanted to do at the Devil's Bookshelf or the Luigi Mangione bookshelf is to basically take some of these books that inform these discussions and do a deeper dive. It's not something you would appreciate necessarily on TikTok. It's not something that you would necessarily normally come across on even YouTube. But for those who are interested in getting into the books, the deeper dive, it is something I'm interested in. It's something that I'm going to do for you on the side. And so it's, hopefully you will pay attention to these. I recommend that you read this book with me, that you buy a copy of American Sickness, this book that we're going to start out with us on this series. I'm going to have other books that I intend to do if this format works and that people find it interesting. We'll go through other books that Luigi Mangione may have recommended or that I recommend that I think go along with Luigi Mangione's case. I will do the same kind of thing for other stories that we're following. And I also wanted to point out briefly, just to give you a scan through my book titles, if by chance you find something else in this weird eclectic list of things that I have collected books over the years for and read or read some of these books I haven't finished reading or I started to read and lost interest, but you can see I have a lot of topics that I am interested in. I've got a wide range of things. So if you find a book on that little scan that you're like, holy crap, I've got that book, or I want to read that book, or that sounds interesting, I would be more than willing to have another conversation. But for today, we're going to focus on, and for this series, we're going to focus on An American Sickness. Why are we picking American Sickness? Because in one of the latest documentaries, like I said, Luigi Mangione pointed out that he wasn't the best to explain the problems with healthcare system, but others were, like Rosenthal, which is what we're going to focus on today, and Michael Moore in his movie Sicko. I've also suggested How to Blow Up a Pipeline as a book that I think has ties to Luigi Mangione, or Deny, Delay, Defend, another another book that may hearken to the bullet casings that Luigi Mangione allegedly wrote in Sharpie, Delay, Deny, Depose, which was similar to that book title. But we're going to focus today on American Sickness. So again, I realize this is a long intro, and I apologize for that. But what I would like you to do is read along with this book with me. Get a copy of this book before you start. Read through this. I'm going to have every single page, and I'm going to have the highlights that I found are important. I'll do this in sections, maybe the introduction just today, and get us kind of introduced to the topic and the book and the introduction and why I think it's important. And then we'll go through chapter by chapter to finish the book. If it turns out that no one's interested and no one's watching this, the book project may not be completed, especially if the book becomes super dry and no one's listening. But as long as there's viewers, and as long as you leave a like every so often, you follow the thread, you get a copy of the book, you let me know you're reading along, I will continue to do it. I just want to know that anybody is giving a shit about the conversation for me to spend all the time doing these videos. Otherwise, let's just go ahead and dive into this. So I'm going to click on the book and we're going to bring it up full screen. Actually, I wanted to start on the front page right there. So this is the New York Times bestseller, American Sickness, How Healthcare Became Big Business and How You Can Take It Back, by Elizabeth Rosenthal. This is one of the important things that I wanted to point out again about the Luigi Mangione case, is that Luigi Mangione he's been presented in the last documentary as may have been wanting to wake up America to corporate greed. And in particular, he targeted the insurance industry, health insurance industry, as one of the top easy to identify, checks all the boxes, as the documentary would say. Luigi himself said that insurance checked all the boxes of showing corporate greed. So let's dive into this just a little bit more. So right in the beginning, I wanted to highlight some of the praise for the book and some of the reasons why I think it's going to be important, or why I think it's going to be an excellent read. And by the way, again, like I said, I want you to read along with me, and I want you to communicate with me. And if you want to do TikTok lives as a book club, we'll do that. I've got a Discord channel. If you want to do a Discord channel where we talk about just the specific chapter you're on, we'll do that. If you just want to leave comments in here on the chapter that you read and things that you found important but I didn't discuss, we'll do that. I'm trying to work out the format for this, but considering that so many of us are on so many different time zones, coordinating something and getting everybody together, and or continuing a book club if the main participant drops out and nobody else is left, it would make it much more difficult for me to stay on a schedule with nobody there. So we're going to do it in this format for now and see how it goes. So here's a quote that I thought was interesting right off the bat. Rosenthal told an interviewer her goal was to start a very loud conversation that'll be difficult politically to ignore. And that's what I think is what we need to have in America, is a conversation. We need to start having a conversation about the problems with healthcare in America. This is what allegedly drove Luigi Mangione to become so irate at the system that he was willing to kill a man. Some would say he killed an innocent man. Others would say, like in the documentary that was presented earlier, I talked about, that I did a deep dive on, that if you're the CEO of a health insurance company, you have blood on your hands. You are not innocent. So while the media will try to often portray what a coward the shooter was, allegedly Luigi Mangione, which they basically, the media doesn't say alleged anymore. The media says Luigi Mangione cowardly shot Brian Thompson in the back, didn't even have the nerve to face him. All of these things to make it look like it was a cowardly act against a man who was innocent and had no real control over the denial of claims in America, and therefore it was just a brutal attack on the wrong person. This is one of the things that I want to sidetrack a little bit about early on, is how we do blame shifting in America. Trying to say, for example, that Brian Thompson isn't the guy who directly denies your claims, so therefore killing Brian Thompson was a senseless act against an innocent individual. And again, even the documentary by Investigation Discovery had an end thought about the idea that a person who's the CEO of a health insurance company has blood on their hands. They are not innocent. They are approving policies that abuse Americans and put profits over people. So we're going to continue on with these quotes. Patients can save thousands of dollars by purchasing an act of sickness, by Elizabeth Rosenthal. Again, just follow it. When I'm reading, you can just grab the next highlight on the screen, and that's the easiest way to figure out where I'm at, rather than me necessarily moving the mouse cursor that you may or may not see. I could make the mouse cursor a lot bigger. Maybe I'll do that for future videos. But in the meantime, just follow along with my highlights. Every lawmaker and administration official should pick up a copy of An American Sickness. Then, at last, a serious debate can begin. Again, this is the reason why I want to have these book clubs. The reason why I want to do this is because when you're on TikTok and on TikTok Live, it often becomes all about the man Luigi and I can't believe they did this or that, and not the deeper conversation, which is how do we fix a broken healthcare system? How do we fight back against class consciousness? How do we stop the elite caring more about the profits of their shareholders or stakeholders than the welfare of human beings? How do we shift from something Luigi allegedly said in this last documentary, that if you want to get care, you have to couch it in terms of how you can't do your job, not about how much pain you're in, because the health insurance industry gives zero shit about your quality of life or how much pain you're in. They care about the bottom line. Are you going to be a productive worker, and can you make money to pay them in this system? So if you tell them I can't have my job, therefore I won't be able to pay my medical bills, now that you're speaking their language. Hey, you can't pay us, so we need to fix this problem. Oh, my back hurts. I don't give a fuck if your back hurts. Get back to working and pay your bills. This is the extreme, of course, of this. Continuing on with the quotes that I found interesting in the review of the book, or the preview of the book, Elizabeth Rosenthal's meticulous history of the crisis in American healthcare should be required reading for our generation. I agree. I don't agree in the sense that I haven't read the book yet, but I agree that this generation needs to start educating themselves and waking up to how bad our healthcare system is in America, comparatively to other countries as well. I have not read another volume that diagnoses the deeply, perhaps fatally flawed system of health insurance and delivery with such lucidity, dissects its critical shortcomings, and provides such clear prescription for its bills. Wow, maybe I'll have to cut that shit out. Or maybe I'll leave it in, who knows. I don't want to spend a ton of time editing these things, so we'll see how that goes. Going on, I want to point out this next quote. I've got up here, by the way, in the corner, a blue quote and a yellow quote, just to let you know what happens with that is sometimes there's a paragraph when we get to that, that I thought there was a sentence in that review that kind of stands on its own and needs further discussion by itself. So let's go here to the other one first. Healthcare has a dark side too, where greed and self-delusion allow healthcare providers and drug and device manufacturers to treat patients less like vulnerable fellow human beings and more like ATM machines. That dark side is on vivid display in American Sickness, Elizabeth Rosenthal's groundbreaking book that makes it impossible not to be shocked, if not enraged, by the gulf between the good care that is possible and the profiteering of our healthcare industrial complex so often engages in. And this is one of the things that I want to point out. Did Luigi Mangione, I'm going to try to bring this back to a Luigi whenever we can. Did Luigi Mangione read this book? There was a suggestion in the documentary that Luigi said, hey, I'm not the best person to discuss this, but people like Rosenthal is. So, did Luigi read this book, and did it, like this paragraph suggests, make him not only shocked but enraged at the gulf between good care that's possible and the profiteering? And so did this enrage Luigi Mangione to do something about it? Again, the specials seem to indicate that. If you want to see all my thoughts about what quotes were selected by Luigi Mangione, allegedly, we don't know for 100% fact that Luigi wrote those things, but I ask you in that deep dive to consider for a moment that Luigi Mangione actually did write those things. And if he did, do we get the psychology of what Luigi was trying to do? And do we, if he wrote those things, do him a disservice by diminishing what he did, which was try to open the dialogue in America about these problems by making it about how cute he is and all these things instead of what he was trying to get the message across? Continuing on with our quotes that we're focusing on in today's brief, Dr. Elizabeth Rosenthal, a physician turned tenacious reporter, shows how the highly dysfunctional American healthcare system turned the gentle art of healing into a greedy arsenal of profit, where everyone does well except the patient. So yes, shareholders, stakeholders, they're all doing quite well, thank you very much, in this industry, in this health insurance industry. Politicians also are getting paid by lobbyists of the healthcare system. Everybody seems to be doing doing quite well financially, except for the patients themselves who suffer. And then I broke out this separate quote. She also teaches us how to fight back against useless treatments, outrageous fees, and bewildering bills. This is a key thing that I hope this book will do. Not only do we need to educate ourselves about how badly we're being abused in America in the healthcare system to focus on profits over people, but we should educate ourselves on how to fight back against that system. That doesn't necessarily require somebody to die. This is the tough part, because I'm not necessarily saying that an extreme act of a CEO being taken out, for example, isn't a rational or understandable tactic. However, most people are not at that level. Most people don't even want to consider something that, and I think that probably is for the best. But what we need to do is we need to educate ourselves so that we can fight back about in the system that we feel comfortable, the way that we feel comfortable to fight back about. So this is what I like about the teaser of this book, is that it's not going to just explain to us how bad things are in America, but give us suggestions on how we can fight back, how we can actually save money and fight the system, this healthcare system that is designed to focus on profits over people. Another thing it says here down in this next quote, Rosenthal makes a compelling case against the hospital and pharmaceutical executives behind the money chase. Again, executives. So she's telling us how to fight against the executives. So one might argue that Luigi Mangione, who supposedly pointed out this book as an excellent book to educate ourselves, the American Sickness, did it enrage him? Did it compel him to strike back against the pharmaceutical and healthcare executives? Brian Thompson being the CEO of UnitedHealthCare, biggest insurance company with the highest denial rates. Did this book inspire him? And if so, should we be finding out a little bit more about the psychology behind the man and understanding his cause? And that's why we're doing this in this book review. Okay, continuing on, we're just going to probably get through the introduction today, and then we're going to get chapter to chapter. I'm going to see how this is received on YouTube, see if anybody gives a shit and anybody wants to read it. If the format's okay for you, this is a tester. This is a test. All right, An American Sickness will give you many new reasons to avoid getting sick. This is a huge, huge, huge thing for me. I want to explain to you my personal obsession with that sentence right there. I have had a lifetime struggle with obesity. My family has a lifetime struggle with obesity. I have been ridiculously heavy, and I'm still heavy. I'm still obese by medical definition today. But I was morbidly obese, one of the horrible terms that I hate, morbidly obese for decades. Who knows what kind of untold damage I have done to my body over the years that probably can't be totally reversed. But things that I was told by the medical community early on was, when I became diabetic, I was told, once you have diabetes, you will always have diabetes, and it's a degenerative disease. This was told to my earlier self when I was in my 20s. It's a degenerative disease. It always gets worse. It never gets better. You're going to have to get on insulin, and you're going to be on insulin for the rest of your life. These were the things that I was told. I now realize that the medical community no longer even believes in that. Diabetes is reversible. Diabetes is not a lifetime thing, and it's not true that once you go on insulin you'll never go back kind of thing in all cases. So it is a myth. It is a lie. The pharmaceutical companies have a desire to keep you hooked on drugs for the rest of your life. What I will say is this: in the last year, and this is so important to me, on the last year, I started out about a year ago on about 6 different blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetic medications that were a combo to keep my blood sugar in check and to keep my heart condition in check, to keep everything, basically my cholesterol low, all these things. And I went to see a nutritionist because I was having depression and I was having some brain fog of my own. Luigi Mangione, by the way, allegedly in the last documentary, they documented a lot of cases of brain fog that Luigi had. So let's bring that back to Luigi for a minute, because that's ultimately what this whole book series is about Luigi Mangione. He described brain fog. I was having brain fog, and then I did some research on my own, and I found out that one of the drugs that I was taking, a statin, for example, has been known to cause in people brain fog or issues with cognitive ability. And I started by taking the statin away to just kind of see how and my mental sharpness went up incrementally. I mean, just it was overnight, practically couple weeks, I think, and I was just like, oh my God, why am I feel like I'm so much smarter? Like I was feeling dumb at work. I was feeling like I just wasn't getting the simplest things. It's anecdotal. And I'm on a little bit of a side tangent, but I want to explain to you, again, coming back to this quote that I'm trying to focus on, is that we need to give new reasons to avoid getting sick in the first place. Over the last year, to summarize where I'm going with all this, is that I went to a nutritionist. I started to go on exercise bikes. I started taking care of my health. I went on and I don't recommend this for everyone, I went on a low-carb, high-fat diet and reversed diabetes. I am not diabetic. My doctor has agreed to me that he was taking it off my medical chart. I am no longer diabetic, and he's not going to list me as diabetic or treat me as diabetic. I'm taking no diabetic medications. I've come off of all but 2 of my other medications to regulate heart. My blood pressure is lower than it's ever been in my life. It is completely normal, and I'm only on 2 things that potentially regulate the blood pressure. I'm thinking about backing off those now because it seems like my body is handling it by myself. The cholesterol medication that my doctor wanted me to stay on, because when I first started going to a low-carb, high-fat diet, it raised my cholesterol a little. I was not concerned about it. My doctor was. I told him, I'm gonna come off of the cholesterol lowering medication despite your recommendation. I'm the one in charge of my health. I've decided I'm gonna come off of it. He said that's fine. Let's give it 6 months and take a look at how it looks. When I came off the cholesterol medication, my cholesterol lowered because I was continuing diet and exercise. If I had come in 6 months later while continuing to take the cholesterol lower medication that my doctor wanted me to stay on, he would say that the reason my cholesterol was lowered was because I was taking the medication. Instead, I stopped taking the medication, got on an exercise bike and changed my diet. And in 6 months, I didn't need it. And he said, good for you. You don't have to take this medication. So yeah, stay off of it. But my point being is that the medical industry is not designed to tell you just how much you can accomplish through diet and exercise and taking care of yourself and changing things yourself. They don't advocate for you to do it that way. I've been told by multiple doctors, and I'm so sorry this is a huge side tangent, but this is what a book club is about, is for us to talk about this. So if you want to have thoughts about anything I'm ranting about, please by all means leave it in the comments. Tell me your own stories. Share. That's the whole point of a book club, is let's share our stories. My point being, though, is just that I had more than one doctor tell me that when in relation to diabetes, for example, people don't stick to diets and exercise plans. They always backslide and go back to the way they were. So therefore, we have decided as a medical community, we're not going to advise people take care of problems with diet and exercise. We just give them a pill because people won't stick with it. And in the end, it's better for you to be on a pill than to continue to abuse your bodies with bad health decisions. And so what they say is they try to justify the fact that we're not going to spend a lot of time telling you, yeah, you're right. You know what? You could take care of yourself and stay off of pharmaceuticals if you would just take care of your body and listen to things. But because they know you are not going to do that, they don't go down that path with you. Most doctors will not go down that path with you. They might peripherally, you could try some diet and exercise, but while you're dieting and exercising, let's try this, and this medication. And when your numbers come down because you're doing diet and exercise, they will tell you, well, we did add these medications. And so that's why you're really seeing those results. Because you can put all this, and I've even had this happen. A doctor will tell me, it's great that you're doing these things, but the medication is probably doing more for you than the diet and exercise. So they kind of hint that you can kind of give up if you'd like on all the hard work you're putting in, taking care of your body and trying to get your health right, because a pill will just do it for you. So if you want to keep working hard, that's great. Work hard at it. But we've given you a pill and you can see the numbers are coming down. So that's what the answer is. It's a crisis in America that we are not paying attention to just how much we can take care of ourselves by not getting sick in the first place. That's why I spent so long on this particular quote. I think one of the number one things we need to do across the world, but especially in America, is start taking care of ourselves and don't get sick in the first place. Because we want the health insurance industry to be there for when we're truly sick, not to keep us on lifelong prescriptions and make us a lifelong patient of things that we don't need because they think that we're too lazy to take care of it ourselves. We're almost done with this intro, so I apologize for that huge lengthy thing. But again, I encourage everyone to really engage in this conversation and be part of the book club. Pick up a copy of this book and continue on with this discussion and share your own thoughts. And chapter by chapter, we'll discuss it. I want to continue with this right here. So she also offers tremendously helpful advice to patients on how to navigate the system to ensure that they get the best outcomes. This is another thing that I think that we're going to really hopefully have a discussion about together in this book, is not just how to avoid getting sick in the first place, but when you do need them, how can we minimize their profiteering and maximize the benefit that we get out of our insurance. That's where it's going to have to start. So that was all discussion. It isn't even really the introduction. The introduction isn't real long, so we're going to finish with the introduction. Maybe these will be about an hour long, just to get through the beginning of the book and my rants. But we're going to now read just a hair about Dr. Rosenthal. Dr. Elizabeth Rosenthal was for 22 years a reporter, correspondent, and senior writer at the New York Times before becoming an editor-in-chief of Kaiser Health News, an independent journalist newsroom focusing on health and health policy. She holds an MD from Harvard Medical School, trained in internal medicine, and has worked as an ER physician. She works in New York and Washington, D.C. So there's her credentials. This is why she's qualified to speak about these things. High praise for that career. She knows what she's talking about. She's interviewed doctors, nurses, and patients, and she's managed to get doctors to provide copies of their bills and such to review and show you exactly how bad the system is. So she really pushed the envelope, and she knows what she's talking about. This was a book from 2017. I highlighted the copyright date, 2017-18. So it's a relatively new book, really. Here's talking about the healthcare professionals that basically offered their personal stories. And then we're going to highlight there's two major sections. The first section of this book is talking about the history of the present illness and review of our system. So that's going to cover a major one of two portions of the book. So I don't know if it's split in half exactly, but half the book essentially, or the major part, is just covering the history of our problem, right? And then we're going to get into the diagnosis, treatment, and prescriptions for taking back our healthcare system. That's the part that interests me the most, is how can we fight back? It looks by number of chapters that the bulk of the stuff is covering the history and a little less at the end. It looks like maybe on how to take it back, but that's the meat and potatoes. That's the part where we're really going to have the best discussion, in my opinion, and I hope that you'll stay with it to at least understand how bad the system is, why the anger is out there, and then how we can fight it. And now we're going to get into the introduction. Again, the introduction is not very long, only a few pages, and then we'll wrap up for today. We'll see how this goes. We'll float it out there about Luigi Mangione's bookshelf and see if you guys are interested in continuing this type of conversation. If not, maybe we'll kill it. We'll see. So in the introduction, complaint, unaffordable health care. First quote, "We accept the drug makers' arguments that they have to charge twice as much for prescriptions than any other country because lawmakers in nations like Germany and France don't pay them enough to recoup their research costs. But would anyone accept that argument if we replace the word prescriptions with cars or films?" So in other words, she's saying they're admitting that Americans pay more for their health care than any other country in the world, but that's because the other countries in the world aren't paying their fair share. So they're gonna take it from Americans. Hey, they've got cheap health care over there, but we're losing money because of their cheap health care. So we're gonna charge Americans more, and you guys are gonna foot the cost for the whole world. Bullshit. So that is a major problem. We wouldn't accept that with any other industry, but that's what she's basically hinting at here. The United States spends nearly 20% of its gross domestic product on healthcare, more than twice the average of developed countries. So again, pointing out that the American healthcare system is broken compared to the rest of the world. We pay more on our healthcare system, more for healthcare than any other place, any other developed countries. So this is showing that we've got a unique problem growing in America. And this is, don't kid yourself. This American healthcare system is going to be coming to a country near you. I think that this is, if it makes big money here, it's going to make other people go, I'd like to make big money other places too. Maybe it's just an American thing, but I feel like it's coming your way, just like everything else eventually migrates away. Imagine if you paid for an airplane ticket. I love this quote. Imagine if you paid for an airplane ticket, and then got separate inscrutable bills from the airline, the pilot, the co-pilot, and the flight attendants. That's how the healthcare market works. And I thought that was a great comment. You know, we accept the fact that when we get a medical bill, it's so confusing and it's got all these different people who are billing us, and each one of those entities handle things a little different. Well, you got a bill from the anesthesiologist, and you got a bill from radiology, and you got a bill from this, and you got a bill from that, and they're all handled differently. Well, your insurance covered, you know, some part of this, but not part of that. We don't accept that shit in any other industry, but in the healthcare industry, we've all grown to accept it. We get these big explanations of benefits that are confusing, convoluted, and we just give up and go, whatever. We as Americans, I believe, start getting so confused by the explanation of benefits that we just fuck it, look down to the end of the list and find what the total bill is and send them a check. We stop paying attention. We stop fighting because we just don't understand it. We're not equipped, and that's by design. The price of a Prius at a dealership in Princeton, New Jersey, is not 5 times higher than what you would pay for a Prius in Hackensack, and a Prius in New Jersey is not twice as expensive as the one in New Mexico. The price of that car, at the very same dealer, does not depend on your employer. I'm going to tab over here, or if you're self-employed or unemployed. Why does that matter for healthcare? This is a great point again. Why is it that we accept that if you work for employer A and not employer B, that your costs are different? If you have this type of insurance versus that type of insurance, your costs are different. If you get it at this hospital versus that hospital, your costs are different. We don't accept that bullshit in other industries. Why do we accept it in healthcare? The United States spends nearly 1/5 of its gross domestic product on healthcare, more than $3 trillion a year, about equivalent to the entire economy of France. For that, the U.S. health system generally delivers worse health outcomes than any other developed country, all of which spend an average about half of what we do per person. So why is it that Americans have just as bad or worse health care than countries paying half what we're paying? Again, this logic that, well, everybody else is not paying their share, so we're going to charge Americans more, is horseshit. Nobody should accept that. I have spent months poring over financial statements, tax documents, patient charts, and bills, trying to explain why, for example, a test that costs $1,000 at one of the nation's leading academic hospitals costs $7,000 at some small community hospitals in New Jersey, and the equivalent of only about $100 in Germany and Japan. How the hell can we get to the point where something that costs $100 in Germany and Japan costs us $7,000 here? The economy of scale and the profiteering in America is through the roof on proportions that are just disgusting, and we just accept it. In fact, I would argue though that most Americans don't realize that you could get the same treatment in Germany or Japan for $100 that you're paying $1,000 to $7,000 for in the U.S. And again, even the difference between $1,000 and $7,000 is a ridiculous change. But then to find out that your $7,000 surgery could be $100 if it was in Germany or Japan, then you have to ask yourself, how bad is it in Germany and Japan? Even if you tell me I have to wait an extra week to get my service, I'll do that for the difference between $100 and $7,000. Are you kidding me? But they don't even tell you. They don't educate Americans that that's how bad things are. We, the patients, can actually do a lot to wrest control of our health from the ledgers of the medical industrial complex. This is what I hope the book is going to share with all of us. I hope this is a discussion that we can all come up together, that we can find collective ways to fight this system and pay less and make the insurance companies profit less on us, because they are vested to keep us sick and to keep us paying customers. And so I think that really is the end of the introduction. We're now starting part 1. I'm going to wrap up here for today, and I'm going to apologize if this is a little all over the place. As a book club and a review, I do want it to be a discussion, and so I want to go where the discussion leads us. And I realize that on a video like this is a one-sided discussion, so it's not really a discussion. But I do encourage you to add comments and engage. I will be reading all comments that come in on this chapter, even if I'm 20 books down the road and we're still doing book reviews of a new book and totally new cases. I will be paying attention to comments that are coming in on this. So if you leave a comment today, I assure you I will be reading that comment, and more than likely I'll at the minimum give you a thumbs up or a reply and response. I believe in engaging. These conversations aren't going away, so let's continue to have them. Just because this video may have been out on the internet by the time you see it for months or even potentially years, it doesn't mean that I'm not still as interested in it as I am today. So please test me out on that. And again, if you want to have a true book discussion where we live talk about it, we can give that a try. I just think that it's super hard. I already have people who are interested in this book review who are in other countries, South America, or other continents, other countries, and the time zones are going to be really hard to work out. It's going to be almost impossible. And even if you do coordinate something and somebody gets sick and they can't make it, but they wish they could have been there, it's just impossible to bring a bunch of people together and do that way. So I've decided to try this format. I'll give my thoughts, I'll give my opinions, you leave comments, you do whatever. If you want to talk with me one-on-one or in a small group of you and a couple of friends, we'll work out a time that we can try to do that. But for now, let's do it this way. I will start again another section soon to review part 1 of this book. I may also start another book that interests me, because I'm a little ADD myself, so I tend to move around a lot. So whatever, if I see something on TV and I'm like, oh crap, I've got a really good book about that, it reminds me, I want to read that chapter, I might want to read that chapter and do that. So we'll bounce around a bit. You can follow YouTube and you can subscribe to the books that you're interested in, buy a copy of the book, engage in the conversation, and I hope that you will appreciate what we're trying to do, which is to give a little bit more of background and voice to things like Luigi Mangione and a book that he may have recommended we read. So thank you for paying attention. Hope you will tune in, hope you will subscribe, hope you will follow, and hope that you will engage this content. Thanks.